Major insane news was just dropped about the premiere / filming of the successor show to Game of Thrones. In this video, I'm going to break down that news and explain it for you guys. Let's begin. Before we get started, please make sure you're subscribed and also make sure you turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones / Westworld video throughout this long night. Okay, so this news actually comes to my attention from the Belfast Telegraph, and their reports are stating that filming on the Game of Thrones prequel will start in Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland, where most of Game of Thrones has been filmed at. It's going to begin filming in October, and it has been confirmed that staff at the Paint Hall Studios in the city's Titanic Quarter have been briefed that their next major project will be set 1,000 years before the events of the fantasy drama. Now, that is a quote taken directly from the Belfast Telegraph. What this means is that not only are we going to be getting Game of Thrones Season 8 next year, but the following year, we're going to be getting the prequel series. HBO has ramped it up full into op. Now, one thing that I do want to state here is that we're, scheduled to have this prequel series on the air at some point in 2020. So that gives us a little less than 2 years to completely film the pilot and then revamp it and make it up to our extreme standards of what good Game of Thrones / A Song of Ice and Fire television is. So I'm super excited about that. If you remember, when they were filming the original pilot for Game of Thrones Season 1, Episode 1, it had gotten completely changed. A lot of the actors that are playing the characters that are most famous now weren't originally portrayed by those actors in the pilot. So I'm curious to see how this is going to go down. One thing that is for certain is that once they do start filming in October, which is only a few months away, we're most likely, within a month from now, we're most likely going to find out who the cast is. And also, since they're filming at Belfast and Northern Ireland at Titanic Studios, and we're already so used to getting leaks from there, I would not be surprised if some images from behind the scenes came out. One thing I hope that we get from this is more hands-on from George R. R. Martin. I do know that he had a heavy role in the TV show from seasons 1 to 4, and then he kind of stepped back for the most part. I would like to see him more hands-on in this series. This is his story that they're telling, and something like the beginning of the Age of Heroes, and I know the timeline is a bit convoluted, but for the television series, they're making it simple and saying, 1,000 years ago, this or when these events are taking place. I wouldn't be surprised if it's around 1,000 years ago, give or take a few thousand, but I want George to be hands-on, if not in this first season. And that's another thing too, is like, how many seasons are we going to get of this successor show? I want at least 5 seasons. How many do you guys want? Let me know down below. Another thing to note here is that there is no official title for this successor show, but George himself prefers the title The Long Nights. I feel like there's going to have to be some sort of incorporation of the title Game of Thrones. It just doesn't make sense to have a successor show and not somehow link it to Game of Thrones. I'd prefer it if they just straight up called it The Long Night, because I know the true fans will know what this successor show is about, and you don't have to link it to Game of Thrones, because honestly, 1,000 years ago, the game for the Game of Thrones didn't exist. The Iron Throne was not a thing 1,000 years ago. So this is going to be interesting to see a time that is completely different from what we're used to. I'm super excited about the fact that we're going to see some of the kingdoms of the First Men, and just in all of those magical creatures that existed in their prime. I want to see all of that. Mainly, I'm super excited to just get more Game of Thrones content, especially after this last season goes off, when most likely a major character is going to die in every episode. So it's going to be a pretty tragic ending. I'm going to be excited to get back into the world of Game of Thrones by the time this prequel hits. Now, like I had mentioned earlier, the title of this is not known yet, and there are supposedly other successor shows that are going to be shot. So this might not be the one that actually comes to air, but this is the one that's leading the front. I would love to have seen some sort of Targaryen history, like maybe we could have seen a spinoff during the Greens and the Blacks, but I feel like that's not really that different from the time period that we have now. Like, there are Targaryens riding around on dragons, so going back to a Targaryen civil war where there are tons of them riding around on dragons, it wouldn't feel different enough of a television series for us. But you guys let me know what you think down below of what some of these other successor shows may be, and if they will end up going with those options. Let me know down below. At this point, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to be wrapping this video up. The like goal will be 420. Also, I have linked down below in the description the article to which I have sourced this information, so you can go and check that out for yourself. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts Reviews.